faith, family, and everything else that matters to you from a godly point of view. Welcome to the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast.
Hey, welcome in. It is time once again for the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast. I'm Mark Harvard. I am the pastor of communications and online campus for Clearbranch Methodist Church in Trussville, Alabama. With us this week is our lead pastor, Jeremy Auvil, and we've got some big things happening, and we'll go into that a little bit later on what's on the horizon for things like Advent and things like that. But Jeremy, first off, thanks for being with us this week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you again, the second time on the podcast, as we're trying to do this on a weekly basis and with different members of our ministry team. And so, grateful for the time that I have to be with you for sure.
Okay, so this sermon series that we're starting on Monday, it's one that it's kind of got a funny name, but it's got a very serious subject to it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Sunday we'll be starting a new series. It's called How to Have a Meaningless Life. This is a series that was actually put together by Mark as kind of a preview. We do these ideas of first rights where we put together kind of basic ideas and presentation, and the one who puts that presentation together initially is responsible for putting together the bones of it to give us a basis, and then we build it out from there. And so I'm looking forward to preaching the first message, which is interestingly enough called Treat God Like a Stranger, something that we should never do, but way too frequently tend to do, right?
Sure. Yeah, we keep that distance there. For some reason, and part of it, I think, comes down to the whole thing of either we feel like we're not worth God's time, or else we feel like we can't let ourselves give up that control.
Yeah, I think
or the illusion of that control.
For sure. Yeah, the idea that we are in control has a big part to do with it. I think also, we've got distance between 2,000 years and change since. Jesus, the Emmanuel, God with us, was with us, right? And so, as a result, I think we kind of have this drift that occurs. We forget that God's promise of ever presence, that God's promise that He is always with us now into the end of the age, etc., is real. It's not merely words; it is reality. And so, it's easy for us to treat somebody like a stranger when we do not spend time investing in the relationship that builds, so that we no longer have the tendency to do these things, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that as we go through this series, we touch on different parts of our of life, really, in different stages, correct?
Yeah, I think we're touching on different kind of concepts for sure. Whether it's the first one of treat God like a stranger, or the second one of keep it to ourselves, which is kind of what we do instead of being the witnesses that we're intended to be, or the idea of you got to hide your love away, a nod there to Eddie Vedder. But the idea of loving our neighbor as ourself, radically important. We're so much more prone to love ourselves more than anybody else, and kind of missing that primary, the most important of the rules, right, of the commandments, to love God and to love neighbor. Or finally, to spread yourself thin, that we keep so busy that we chase after stuff that doesn't matter. And instead, we should be chasing after God. So all of these things are foundational, right, for the nature of what it means to be a Christian that is living a life reflective of what Scripture instructs us to live a life like, right?
Sure. Jeremy, why do we resist so much?
I think there's a lot of different reasons, Mark. I don't know that there's a singular. I mean, you pointed a second ago to the idea that it was about control, and I think that's part of it. I think there's also this mindset that somehow our will exceeds God's will, right? Or that our way is better, more efficient, more effective than God's way. Even so much so that we think that our words mean more than God's word does. And so I kind of break things down in a three-part sense when I talk about God's will, His word, and His way, that those are the things that should be what form us and shape us. And we have a tendency to want to shape ourselves and to hold on to our own desires versus supplanting them with God's desire for us, for sure.
We're with Jeremy Auvil. He's lead pastor at Clearbranch Methodist Church. And we're talking about this new sermon series that's coming up, How to Have a Meaningless Life. Obviously a switcheroo title there that allows us to really go into the different aspects of places where we we end up wondering, why am I so depressed? Why am I so down? Why am I so frustrated in life? And so much of it comes from the fact that we're almost, even in some cases, unconsciously trying to pull away or take the reins from God in all these trying circumstances. I mean, I can think about places in my life where I've ended up trying, I've ended up more frustrated than ever. And it's always, in retrospect, it's always the places where I try to do it myself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're not alone in that, right? I mean, like, we've got an entire Bible full of examples of people who have a tendency to think.
Oh, yes, the book.
Yeah, the book. Yeah. Oh, we found a book, right? We'll get to that in January as we look at, Anyway, so we'll be doing a great series in January, and there's a funny section in there about finding the book of the law of Moses. But in this moment, though, we think we've got it all figured out, and we don't. And we're given this tremendous instruction book, but in the midst of this instruction book, the Bible, we see so many other examples of people that really do the same thing that we do. They just, put their own desire, their own hopes, their own expectations, their own will ahead of God's will. And when that happens again and again and again, they wind up having to go through that cyclical motion of reorienting themselves. And so it's interesting, this week I'm coming out of the Psalms. And the reason I've come from the Psalms is the Psalms are really full of three primary types of writing. One of them, they're Psalms of orientation, they're Psalms of disorientation, and they're Psalms of reorientation. And in those differences, we kind of see that cycle, right? Everything's great, we're wonderful. Oh my gosh, it's all falling apart. Okay, now we've gotten back into the right way and things are getting better. And so, yeah, for sure.
Well, and people do that, and just cyclically in their own life too. You have that thing where everything's going great, and I'm just bebopping along on my own. Then things go horribly, and then why am I so underwater? And then I can lean on Christ through this, and then things go better, and then I forget everything I've learned through the rest of that cycle, and then we just wash, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be great if we could just maintain a steady course, and I think that in a lot of ways that's what the series is challenging people to do. To do the opposite of what we're indicating here in terms of the title, right? To have a meaningful life by having a relationship with God, by having a meaningful life by sharing it with others, that is our faith, by having a meaningful life by sharing our love, by having a meaningful life by allowing God to set the tone and the pace of our lives instead of attempting to simply fill it with our passions, our desires, instead of His. Yeah.
Jeremy, as someone who helps walk alongside people that are going through some major struggles in life, just that's your day to day a lot of times.
Sure.
What do you see as the biggest thing that somebody can learn through all of this?
I think it's right orientation. I really do. I think it's right orientation. I think it's recognizing that just because you have always done these things one way does not mean that you have to continue doing those things that way. If we believe, and we do as followers of Christ, that Jesus brings about this transformational work within us, taking us from people that are without an understanding of who God is, who are very self-centered, to people who have a better understanding of God and strive to build in that understanding in our relationship with Him and with others every single day, and who strive to have a better orientation, recognizing God's place and our submission to Him. I think that it helps us to ultimately find greater consistency and to ultimately miss the opportunity, if you will, or to take advantage of the blessing that comes when we are not having to fall into the same patterns again and again and again, but instead, doing things in the way that God calls us to. So, yeah, that'd be it. Maybe. Well, there's so much, man. I mean, there really is. I mean, just we had 5 weeks originally, and we've knocked it down to 4.
Yeah.
And even in 4 weeks, it feels like an enormous amount to bite off, right?
Well, it's a big topic, and there's so many different flavors to it that you kind of have to pick and choose which one is going to be the most impactful for the most people in that. And that's where a lot of it comes from when we do these first rights on sermon series. It's how do we help people in the most authentic and scriptural way possible, but how do we impact the most people with that?
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. When we get back, we've got some big things coming up for Advent. We've got some, I want to talk a little bit about that, as well as just some other events around the church that we have coming up for Advent as well. It's kind of a busy time. It's one of the big Super Bowl time frames for church employment there. So
yes, there are so many things that are important during Advent, and it becomes a real highlight for life in the church, for us as a staff, for our congregation. And so, yeah, I can't wait. It'll be awesome.
All right, stick around. More with Jeremy Auvil, lead pastor at Clearbranch Methodist. It's the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast.
Get ready for our next online night of prayer with Clearbranch Methodist. It's coming up Tuesday night, November 7th at 6 p.m. Join us for this very special time of prayer on our Clearbranch Methodist Facebook page. Pastor Jeremy Auvil and his wife Jenny will be right there on Facebook Live as we all share our concerns and pray over them together. That's Tuesday night, November 7th at 6 p.m. If you want to go ahead and submit your prayer request right now, you can email it to prayer@clearbranch.org. That's prayer@clearbranch.org. We'll see you November 7th for our next online night of prayer.
Want to catch up on a sermon you might have missed? Need to see what God has said about an issue in your life? Are you looking for some on-the-go Bible lessons for your kids? Find it all on our Clearbranch Methodist YouTube channel. Go get it right now at youtube.com/Clearbranch Methodist.
Welcome back to the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast.
We're back. It is the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast. My name is Mark Harvard. I'm the pastor of communications and online campus for Clearbranch Methodist Church in Trussville, Alabama. I'm here with Jeremy Auvil, our lead pastor, and in the last segment we talked about the sermon series we're actually beginning this week for November, called How to Have a Meaningless Life, about finding meaning in your life and about finding that faith and that trust in God. And after that, we go into kind of a busy time of year, a kind of a special time of year. It's Advent, Jeremy, and we've got some big things coming up in the church, just as far as life, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that we'll really move towards here very quickly is our Deck the Halls, which is November 26th. That'll be a lot of fun, and looking forward to, the joy that goes into making this place look like Christmas. Yeah, and we've also got this amazing stage set that's going to be coming to life in the next couple of weeks as well. That'll debut for Advent, and just to give you a hint without giving it away, our series this year is called Gifts, and it's going to be amazing. So
or GIFs.
GIFs. That's a throw out there to some friends here in the church who often argue whether or not it's GIF or YIF or GIF or all the different things. But it's Gifts and GIFTS. And I know you get me thinking about how I say this, but anyway, it's about the nature of what we are gifted during Advent. It goes way beyond stuff that's wrapped in under a tree. So,
I've seen some of the graphic, the idea board stuff that Mike has got in store. Yeah. Oh my goodness,
it's amazing. Well, and I think that for me, maybe one of the most powerful parts of this is the realization that we are intended to recognize that we are gifts in and of ourselves. Right? That don't get me wrong by any stretch of the imagination. Our focus will be on the gift of Jesus, but the life and the death and the resurrection of Jesus was for us, right? That He is doing that for us, and we've got this amazing gift of the gospel, and we're intended to share that. And so, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be an interesting and a unique way for us to head into Advent and to live that out over the course of that season. And man, I can't wait.
I think one of my favorite parts of Advent is that we get all these extra opportunities to come together as a church in one place. We got the Very Merry Movie Night that's coming up, where we have people from our Joy group hanging out with 6-year-olds, and
for sure. Yeah, it really is. There are lots of different opportunities, whether it's the movie night or it's Christmas parties for our small groups, or it's all sorts of stuff. So it'll be great.
I used to have this rule back when I was at another church, that the way to get me to your Christmas parties was the presence of sausage balls.
Oh, okay.
Will there be sausage balls?
I'm sure.
Then I'm there.
At some point, I'm sure that there will be sausage balls. I cannot tell you which party will have them. I do know that one of the women's groups has a party for Christmas that's like a brunch, and it's amazing. And I've gotten to go for the last 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I have intentionally kept that to myself. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to.
I wonder where my invitation was.
Well, I don't control the invitation.
Yeah,
that's not really.
Just say it, mharvard@clearbranch.org. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, they do some good food there. They do. They do. So I'm sure there will be sausage balls and lots of good food in abundance. So not just at that party, all of them. Yeah.
And then of course Christmas Eve. This year it's weird, right? Because this year is one of those years where we have Christmas Eve on a Sunday. So different churches are trying to figure out how you navigate that, and we're actually going to have a Sunday morning and then a Christmas Eve, 2 services same day.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. We have not done that here. At least not in any. Of course, we don't typically have a Christmas Eve that falls on Sunday. We've had that one time since I've been here, I think, and on
once
that
every 7 years.
Yeah. But on that day that we did that, that's in the last period of time that I've been here, we chose to not do a Sunday morning service and instead to offer an opportunity for other things to happen.
But this year it's going to be kind of neat, right? With the more of a family focus on that Sunday morning service. And I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we'll have everybody together, which I think is an enormous part, right? Like there'll be a much greater focus in that regard. And I'll look forward to any opportunity that we have to have the fullness of our congregation together, not merely, separated out. So
absolutely. Jeremy, thanks for hanging out this week. And stick around. We've got more ministry-based stuff, more church-based stuff, more content to kind of affect your life coming up in future episodes of the podcast. Jeremy will be a part of that. We'll have different folks back in. We'll have some new folks that we've started going into talks with about different ministry areas here at Clearbranch. And thank you for joining us this week and the other weeks. Don't forget, go find us on all the different platforms and do all the appropriate interactions that you can, comments and reviews or whatever your platform
shares.
Yes, shares, thumbs ups, hearts, whatever.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
It's all similar.
There you go.
Yeah. We're so hip on
it's all information.
The information. Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
That's right.
We'll see you. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time on the Clearbranch Methodist Podcast.